Top news, it's the Russian dude, and finally, Boeing will admit to fraud charges regarding 737 crashes. But unfortunately, at least at the moment of recording this video, they will most likely, the executives of this company, will avoid criminal prosecution. So right now let's quickly talk about exactly what happened in a little bit more details, so you have full information on what's going on. So yes, long story short, Boeing will admit to fraud charges, which resulted in 2 737 crashes, which unfortunately took the lives of 346 people. And this happened already after they were warned by the government. They said that don't worry, we promise everything is gonna be good. It was even protected by the government for 3+ years. Well, yet here we go again. And last week, federal prosecutors gave Boeing two choices. Choice number one is to admit fault and plead guilty to these fraud charges, or you just stick to your story, and then if truth will be uncovered, which most likely it will be, then you are already at this point will be facing criminal charges of its executives, versus quote-unquote just paying a very big fine. And just in very basic understanding, prosecutors are accusing Boeing that it gave the green light for its flying machines, for specifically its 737s, even though the details, the parts that it was used to assemble these planes were way below standards, and the methods of assembling was also pretty questionable, and also that they were approving the pilot training program, which was not in fact preparing future pilots for some potential future circumstances beyond Boeing control. And even though Boeing agreed already to plead guilty, this plea still has to be accepted by the federal judge, and if it is accepted, Boeing is to pay $243.6 million. This is the same amount company paid back in 2021, almost for the very same charges. So as you can see, for some companies history means nothing, they do not learn on their mistakes. At the same time, an independent monitoring company will be assigned to Boeing to control the quality of its products, control the quality of the assembly of the plane, and then Boeing will have to invest additional $455 million into its compliance and safety programs. And here, in my personal opinion, is the most unjust part of this plea deal. It is because it will only apply to Boeing's wrongdoings before these two crashes, and it will not give Boeing immunity for other incidents. And also, this deal does not cover any former or current Boeing executives, only the company itself. And for obvious reasons, the majority of lawyers of those relatives whose family members died in those Boeing crashes, they will advise the federal judge not to accept this plea and also to include the Boeing executives in this criminal prosecution. And so the judge who will be overseeing this plea guilty, which will be entered in the US District Court in Texas, he can either accept it as it is, or he can reject it, which will create new negotiations between Boeing, the government, and the people who were affected. And just a little bit of background of these two crashes in the center of attention, which happened in Indonesia and in Ethiopia. Basically what happened in the first case, Boeing, because of software malfunction, suddenly took a nosedive, and then obviously the pilots were not able to do anything, they were not prepared for this at all, it happened literally out of nowhere. And the second case, even though the pilots knew that this could have happened, when it did happen because of lack of training, once again, they literally could not do anything to prevent it from happening. And in response to that, Boeing just literally for the headlines fired two low-level employees which were not in any way related to this, I would say, at all, besides just being people so Boeing can create headlines. We fired some people. And also, they did ground for 20 months the very similar 737s, not allowing them to fly. They were doing intelligence, they were trying to find the root of the problem, and then 20 months later, like nothing happened, these 737s started flying once again. And what Boeing basically did is the so-called quote-unquote, they reduced the power of influence of this flying software. But all this changed in January, when a panel which was covering unused emergency exit on Alaska airline, it literally just separated mid-flight. The pilot of 737 MAX was able to safely land the plane, but this just started another round of scrutiny and very thorough investigation against Boeing. And even though this criminal investigation and the guilty plea that Boeing is about to take can jeopardize its government contracts, unfortunately, once again, it only involves the company, not the decision-making people, which most likely means that states will have to decide themselves whether they want to continue working with Boeing or not. And since this is almost one of the only companies capable of producing technology and software that they do produce, once again, in case this current plea guilty is taken into consideration, most likely Boeing will just get away with the slap on the wrist. Because according to some American government representatives, such as for example Connecticut Democrat Richard Blumenthal, he says that he wants Boeing to succeed as a company. For the sake of jobs it creates, for the sake of the local economies, for the sake of American travelers, and for the sake of the US military, because, yes, Boeing does not only produce commercial and just regular civilian planes, it was also a very big contractor of the US military. This is the justification of some US politicians, but obviously it does not matter for the relatives of those people whose family perished on those 737 crashes. They want more people, specific people, to be held accountable, to be prosecuted, to be put in jail, because they do say that those executives, they knew about the faults in their program, in the software, in the assembly, and most certainly in the defective parts which were continued to be used in assembly of Boeing planes, and yet they still did nothing. They green-lighted the operations, which resulted not just in one but two fatal crashes and then even more incidents. Because as of right now, what some, not even all of top executives of Boeing, what they did for these relatives, during one of the court hearings, he just turned around and apologized to the family members. That's it. And of course, a lot of data, a lot of intelligence, a lot of knowledge, information about what is happening inside Boeing was presented thanks to several whistleblowers, which were providing this information. We used to be ex-employees of Boeing. And well, in the very Russian manner, we already know what happened to some of them. Well, there you have it, guys. Please let us know down below in the comments whether you think Boeing paying hundreds of millions of dollars in fines, whether this is enough or not, or whether people have to actually go to jail. Let us know what do you think. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel if this video was informative, interesting, or both, and see you tomorrow.